Yeah, I know. It's an abnormal release time for the pit. That's because we have games on Friday, and I'm going to try and have the VODs out for co-streams immediately afterwards, so I don't want to clog up your inbox feed. So welcome to a Thursday night, or you potentially watching this Friday morning, version of... We will get into LCS fantasy, into the weekly matchups, but there's a broader conversation around North America that I want to have that revolves around this. A hat that honestly, at times, I am so scared to wear because I'm worried that people are going to lump me into a particular group that I don't want to be associated with. But then there's times like the Olympics where I feel more proud than ever to wear it. And it inspires a lot of hope for North America for a particular reason. Let me give you the background on why this particular graphic is so important. That is Alyssa Liu, who just skated one of the best free skate women's programs that I've seen in a bit. And with that, brought home the first Olympic medal for women's figure skating in 20 years, and the first women's Olympic figure skating gold medal individually in 24 years. That's longer than some of the players who were playing in the LCS have been alive, which is just awesome. Like, I was sitting there watching it the entire time. Like, already Amber's comeback from the first round, for those that have been watching the Olympics, was fantastic, but this was awesome. Now, I know you're not here for figure skating, you're here for North America. Why does this relate? Rafa recently tweeted out a thing that said, you got to wipe out 3 of these squads and you keep one. And everybody had their issues with either picking C9 or picking CLG versus TSM, who made it to semifinals, who didn't. And it kind of devolved into this conversation on like the weighting of like the last time North America made MSI, as well as whether we can have that expectation ever again, because we're starting to see those comparisons now that C9 has looked really clean, of people asking, okay, but can they hold up internationally? To which I would respond to people, first and foremost, let's not worry about that yet. We'll worry about it when we get there. This is like Olympic qualifiers right now, okay? You got to make sure you qualify first before you can do anything. And then we'll worry about it from there. So for C9, they look fantastic, but they now need to close it out cleanly to get to the point where we can have these conversations. But on the broader scale, like not applying this to C9, applying it to North America, the amount of people that I've seen mocking our region who have told us to give up faith, you've done nothing, when it's only been 8 years since we last appeared in the semifinal at Worlds, is laughable to me. It clearly shows how few people have experience with sports, or these things that can sometimes take multiple decades to correct. And by all means, is it easy to overcome hurdles like the ones that exist between us and Korea and us and Europe in League of Legends esports? No, it's not easy. But you know what it takes? It takes a passionate group of people that want to dedicate themselves to this, that give it their all. You get a little bit of luck with some natural talent that is given your way. And I refuse to believe that we don't have the talent in North America, or specifically in the United States, to be able to compete on an international scale. I'm sorry, we've proven in every other fucking activity that we are involved in that we can absolutely do that. So I don't believe this idea that we naturally can't do it and our players are not as skilled. We might have problems we need to work on, but that's the point. You invest decades, you invest a ton of time into trying to solve these. And when people freak out over, oh, we didn't make it again this year, I'm done, I'm giving up. Screw that. Oh man, I can't understand that philosophy of just giving up the second things start looking a little bit better. You have, quite frankly, a few years of not looking great. This is a 20-year drought we're talking about here. 20 years. I know, based on the demographics of this video, some of you were not alive to know the last time we won an Olympic gold medal in this sport. That's why I tell people, like, we need to up our commitment and our dedication and our passion, which I get if people don't have that, fine, but we need people from the top leading that charge and making sure this point is proven the entire time. That, yeah, we're going to have our bumps along the way, but if we want to, we can make it happen. Okay, I refuse to believe anything otherwise. I'm sorry, I know this is like a big tangent. I'm ranting because I'm very much on a high from the Olympics. Like, between this and hockey, it's just been a wild last hour, and I've got adrenaline going through them. I'm trying to calm down, but I had to talk about it at least a little bit more in depth. Anyways, I'll just close this by saying, miss me with any arguments that North America can't eventually win Worlds. If you have that mentality, you're never going to. So I'm never giving up on that, but we'll worry about that at a later point in time. Anyways, let's kick it over to LCS Fantasy. 404 members, a part of the Shy Knockers, with the top leader being Team Scrib, who has a solid 30-point advantage on everybody else right now. Last round, taking advantage of Thanatos and C9 being pretty dominant. Kryra, despite some of the struggles later on in the series, as seen by the 5 and 10 points there, very much turning it up early on. His biggest carriers, though, APA and Huhi, 24 points apiece. Pretty nice, and having C9 as a team. The biggest performers of the week, unsurprisingly, Vulcan and Blabber, and C9 just having a good series. Huhi showing up pretty well, makes sense. Now, luckily, we're down to 6 teams remaining, so nobody has been eliminated yet, so I don't have to worry about, like, missing anything. But the question is, can I upgrade any players? Is there anybody that I can get that would be better potentially in the matchup? C9, I'm not going to get rid of Thanatos. Obviously, that is, like, one of the best players that you could possibly ask for, especially in top lane. I could possibly sell him and pick up somebody below to see if that can, like, get me some additional points and free up some market cap space, which I think actually might be the play here, because honestly, I don't think I'm going to be predicting DSG necessarily over Team Liquid, and trying to pick up some players for teams that you think will be around next week rather than having to sell off your cap space is going to be key. So if I do think that DSG is going to lose, in theory, I can't pick many, if any, of their players. So let's remove the DSG players and then go from there. See what we can fill in the gaps. And the other problem is I also don't think Quad is going to be... I don't think Flyquest in general is going to be around after this week. So I'm going to swap this over to Saint, pick him up, because I know it's going to be a little bit of a cheaper cost. Even if I think he might run it down a bit at points, I think it's still ultimately fine. I could see a world where he's put on Galio duty, so why not? Team-wise, I got to be looking at the cheapest possible option out of Lion, TL, and C9, of which C9 is 20, Spawn is 18, Rainover's down there and cheaper. Let me see. That's a 3-point swing. I'm going to pick up Rainover and try and use that as my leverage, which then I could put towards better players in more important roles. So bot lane, I'm going to try and see if Yon's going to be pretty cheap right now, even over Sajed, who I'm expecting, even if he does have a good series. Again, I just don't want to have to worry about paying a higher price potentially for any TL or Lion or C9 players. Actually, let's go support. Let's go with the cheapest option here, because I think I'm not going to be able to afford Vulcan or Huhi, who's getting like the most amount of points currently. Isles is the cheapest. We'll grab him. I think it makes sense. That's fine. I've seen him play quite a few. Let's see him play the Karma. With that in mind, I am expecting Jose Dioto to continue looking good, so I'm going to try and grab him if I can. Actually, wait. Let me see if I can go cheaper in other roles, and then I'll worry about this. What if I was to grab the cheapest option out of the ADCs that's available is Yawn, which he has not been playing well so far this split. We'll give him the Lucian because I think he's been enjoying that. Does that give me enough to grab Blabber? Oh, just barely not enough. What if I take one risk, okay? What if I trade the player that I want here, grab Morgan, who hasn't been averaging the most amount of points? But if I get rid of Thanatos, sell him, pick up Morgan, I know it's a lot of TL players, but I think that's ultimately fine. You can't pick up Dokla, even if you're going to predict Lion at the moment. You give him a carry champion, let's give him like the Mbessa. I think that's ultimately fine. And then jungle, that'll free me up with enough points to pick up Blabber, which is great because he's playing incredibly well right now. We'll give him, who's common? Mbessa, no, we'll give him the Nocturne. It actually frees me up with 2.3 points, which then I could potentially take, nope. I don't like having this 2.3 remaining budget space, but it also gives me room going into next week. I mean, are there any other C9 players I can pick up with that additional room? No, APA is like way too much. Bot lane, no, it's like the difference is extreme. Support, pretty extreme. Coach, pretty extreme. So yeah, I'm kind of stuck with this as is. I'm not the most confident, but it's faith in the matchups I believe will win this upcoming weekend. Which, speaking of, don't forget to click confirm and save, by the way, just in case people, need that reminder. First series up for the weekend is going to be Team Liquid versus Disguise, which again will be on a Friday this week. Hence why you're watching this video earlier. Just reiterating that because there's always people that are like, oh, I didn't know. I'm doing everything I can to remind you of it. I don't know what else to say. This is going to be, in my opinion, the most important series of the weekend because it is the discrepancy between team that looks great together as 5. And even in their rookie debut in a best of 5 series for DSG, they might have lost it. I think they could have won that series versus Sentinels and didn't have to be in this position in particular, but they look pretty cohesive even when they're losing. Versus TL, who's able to get early leads and individually is way more skilled than Disguised is at the moment, but is somehow not able to bring it together as a team in the mid to late game for whatever reason. And there's this whole conversation that I know Team Liquid wants us to drop at this point, but the broadcast kind of set it up where it's like, oh, there was all this conversation about who's doing well in scrims. And you're seeing players, I know the groans. I just me saying it, I can feel it through the screen that you're tired of it being mentioned. I know. I can't help that players are also still talking about it behind the scenes. So you have to take at least a little bit of weight into it. But ultimately, stage games are all that matters. And if you're looking purely at the performance on stage, you would look at Disguised as favorites in this matchup, despite the fact that I don't think anybody's actually going to predict it that way, myself included, for one simple reason. Even though DSG has had time to develop, and obviously this first loss can be a massive turning point for them where they learn a good bit, turn it on, I think 2 weeks off for Team Liquid is going to be a massive help for them. Even though their problem is on stage, to be clear, and it's not something that they can necessarily work on whenever they're just practicing in their own rooms. It is a mentality and like a difference that you can start to set in the locker room coming into this moment where hopefully you do come out and these leads that you have, you stop chucking them. But the pressure is entirely on their shoulders. DSG should come into the series and just be like, you know what? If we win, we win. Great, awesome. And I know it would be sad for them to lose in this situation and finish 5th, 6th, but given preseason expectations, that wouldn't be that bad. For Team Liquid, it is disastrous if they lose here. Like, this might be one of the biggest letdowns from expectation to performance that we've seen in a bit in this league. So all the pressure and weight is on their shoulders. Can they live up to the moment? Will DSG step up and will the rookies continue to look good as well as rebound from some of the mistakes from the week prior? Maybe. But my biggest thing is even a bad series from Core JJ is clearly going to be better than a bad series from Lion that we saw last week, or Lions. Maybe if this goes late enough in the series or like late enough within each game, TL starts feeling that pressure and they start coming undone a bit in the seams and they still can't get that chemistry together where Kryra and Sajed can come together and hopefully carry it as long as Calmy doesn't have some bad plays and, you know, Castle does what he does. I just feel like even if TL makes mistakes in this series, it's still going to go their way. Now, will that give me confidence going into next week? No, not necessarily. Like, this is like that one checkpoint where it's like, okay, this is your final test. Like, give me something to believe in you, or I will be picking against you next week. So, balls in your court, TL. On the Flyquest versus Lion side, this is like, we have no clue how to grade these two because it's like Flyquest, like, oh, it's like, oh, they just got their ass beat by C9. Yeah, they got their ass beat by C9. They also are the only team to be able to take a game off of C9 the week prior. So we're going through 2 weeks of losses where people are going to be like, oh, you know, we're a little bit more down on Flyquest. But at the same time, they were also in that 2-1 matchup or 2-0 matchup that they would go on to lose and then have to face C9. Whereas you look at their opponent in Lion, they've looked like crap. All right. And I hate to say it, but like the mid lane difference here immediately, as long as Quad can continue to capitalize on some of the mistakes that Saint is just willing to chuck to people at this point. Yeah, like I get, by all means, it is definitely a favorable matchup for Inspired, assuming that he gets to the point where he can affect the game, because I would take him over Griffin overall. Top lane and Dokla, I don't see getting an advantage over even somebody that's new like Gakos. Like, even though like he didn't perform well against Thanatos, short Thanatos, but Dokla's a guy that you're still expecting to go down 1,000 golden lane even to rookies. On the bot side, I'll be honest with you, Berserker and Isles have not impressed me all that much. But on the Flyquest side, I also just don't think, for whatever reason, the meta read from Flyquest in terms of their bot lane picks has been fantastic. So that feels even. It very much just feels like a mid lane matchup. But with that said, again, I hate to go back to the scrim thing. It's like, again, we know the skill caliber and we know behind the scenes that Lion just is better on paper. It's a question of whether those 2 weeks off are enough for them to fix some of the issues. And for me, I think, yeah, that's once again going to be the case here. Like, I do value a lot of time that you can have together without having to play a game on stage to just come in and solidify some of these things. So I do think it gives them an advantage that will be able to propel them in what I expect to be a closer and kind of messy series at points between these two. That's all respect to Flyquest. I think it's still a great split for them starting off. If they do lose this, if they go on to win, then we have some big questions that will be arisen on the backs of Lion. But until we get to that point, I think it's Lion favored, despite the community seeming to turn against them at the moment. I still would personally pick them. I realize I didn't say the TL score. I'm going to go 3-1 TL. I'm going to go 3-2 Lion over Flyquest. And I don't know what else there really is to say to close out like the C9 versus Sentinels debate here. I can't give you an angle where I predict Sentinels over C9, with the exception of maybe Hambach just pulls some early games out of his, like, just absolutely stomps Blabber at these crab fights. Maybe they send 5 instead of 4, but then, Thantos isn't able to capitalize and pick up resources elsewhere. I don't know how C9 loses this. Like, they look like a well-oiled machine, and it's not one of the teams that I would expect to be able to contend with them, because I don't see individual leads coming in any lane in particular. C9's drafting has been solid all around. Like, it's almost a boring answer to give you right now, but it's just not a matchup that I think fares well for anyone but C9. Like, I'm sorry, it just is what it is. I'm saying 3-0 pretty solidly over to C9, and they continue to look good. They lock their spot in finals, and we'll have one final series to take it all. But that's going to be it for this special edition of The Pit on a Thursday or Friday morning. If you're watching it, I'll be live with the Shineoff watch party for the Team Liquid series later today/tomorrow. 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It should be a ton of fun. This weekend's games are going to be great. We have 2 straight weeks of Super Weeks, including games on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So a lot of league coming up. Hope you all are ready for a fun time. And congratulations to Alyssa Liu, the women's hockey team. The men's hockey team's going for gold here soon. It's a great time to be an American sports fan. And living in New York City, it's also a great time to just be a fan of like where we're at, because everything feels like it's going kind of the right direction right now for us. It's just fun. They took down the scaffolding at AMC Lincoln Center, which has been up for like 5 years. I saw that and was just mind blown. I don't know. Things are looking up.